Hi, I'm Kitty from bashfulcat.com, and I am here with another attempt at a YouTube video. Today's video is kind of all over the place, so I thought a little intro might be helpful. First, let me say thank you to everyone who has watched one of my videos, or given it a thumbs up, or left a comment, or subscribed to my channel, or even thought about doing any of those things. It's amazing anybody who's watching these, and I really am grateful and appreciate it. Okay, today I thought I would share some of my latest improvements on my organizing system. There's nothing really revolutionary here. Most of it I stole from Jennifer McGuire, the crafty organization queen. But I've made a few modifications that have worked well for me and found a couple ways to save a little money, so I thought it might be helpful for a couple people. Not to mention that organizational videos are just plain fun. So, without further ado, I will turn the camera around and we will show you how I store my stuff. Oh, one more thing. If I forget to mention anything specific in the video, I'm going to try to show you everything I use, but all of the products will be listed on my blog and also below in the description for this video. And if you have any questions or comments or suggestions or thoughts, as always, please leave me a comment either here at the blog or feel free to send me an email and I will definitely get back to you. Thanks so much, and okay, let's go organize. Hi. Okay, we're going to give this a try. It might be sort of disjointed, but I'm going to try to show you everything I do to store my stamps and dies. I use a lot of different kinds of sleeves, but I found what I think is the best deal, and I'll show you which one I'm going to start sticking with. This one you're probably familiar with. It's a very popular Avery Elle stamp and die storage pockets. They are very nice. I know why people are using them. And I am using them for some of my bigger die sets, the heavy ones, or like nested ones where there's a bunch of them, because they are strong and sturdy and work really well. Simon Says Stamp also makes some that I hear are almost identical, and I'm going to be trying those soon too. Basically, it comes down to whatever you can get the better deal on. Most of my stamps, I'm using something a little less expensive though. This is, like I said, I use this for some of the heavier dies, but for stamps, for the most part, I'm using these Ultra Pro 5x7 soft sleeves. Sorry about the glare. These are much less expensive. They're not as fancy. They're not as thick and hardy. They do not have a flap at the top. They're just a plain open sleeve. But I found for most of my stamps, if it has a whole stamp set where it's already all stuck to a piece of plastic, that this is fine, and it's actually faster to get them in and out when you don't have that little flap there. So I use that for a lot of my stamps. Okay, and I've also experimented with a few different things. Let's see. This was completely an accident, but it worked out. I had purchased some of these photo sleeves. It's called a waterfall photo sleeve from We Are Memory Keepers. It's specifically for use with your fuse. You're supposed to fuse these together and you can have a waterfall of pictures, but they don't come fused together. They actually look like this, if you can see. It's just a nice little pocket. It has a sort of a lip at the top. It does not really have a fold-in flap. I suppose you could try to fold that in, but it'd be difficult. But they're really thick, really strong and sturdy, and they're so cute for those little things, the little tiny dies and stamps you don't want to get lost or rid of. Unfortunately, they aren't cheap. These cost almost as much as the Avery large sleeves, so they are not an economical deal unless you happen to already have some or you find a sale somewhere. But I'll show you how I'm using the ones that I have. When these are all used up, I'm going to go to my new system for these, and I will show you that in a minute. I am also using these. This is sort of an experiment, and I'm not loving them, but they're really inexpensive. So these are just for those few items that are just too big to fit in one of those other sleeves. Stencils and some of those background stamps that are just huge. They're large enough, but they're just simple sleeves. They don't have a flap. Let me see if I can find an open one here. They just look like this. They open, no flap or anything, and they're not super strong, but they work. So that's certainly an alternative, and so far it's the only ones I've found that are really big enough. I think My Favorite Things may have some. Someone does, but for now, these will work for me. And last but not least, this is my new favorite. These are by Max Tech, and you get 100 sleeves in a package, and these are roughly 5 by 5, so they're smaller than the, and I can't find one, smaller than the Avery L's, so it won't work with regular taller stamp sets, but it works great for most thin dies and some stamp sets. And all the smaller ones that I'm currently using those fuse sleeves for, I will be going to this. It's a little bit larger at 5 by 5 instead of 4 by 4, but it does actually have a fold-in flap. They feel very much like the Avery sleeves in terms of quality and thickness. They feel like they're going to hold up and last forever. And let me see. While these are only approximate, you may find sales. The Avery pockets run something like 29 cents a piece. I think the Simon Says are closer to 24 cents. It's not counting tax and shipping and all that fun stuff, but roughly. But these, they are, for a package of 100, they work out to about 7 cents each. And if you want to really go overboard and be set for life, you can get 1,000 for $30. And that brings the price down to nearly 3 cents each. And that's just crazy. So this is going to be my new go-to sleeves. I love these. Super happy. I am also using some magnets for storing my dies. These I found at Amazon by Marietta Magnetics. They're 4 by 6 and they have adhesive on the back, making them nice and easy and convenient. I really like these. They're strong. I haven't had any problems with them, and I felt like I got a pretty good price on them. Okay, now on to a demonstration of how I put these all together and how I use them. Let's see. Now this, like I said, is my new favorite. They're actually for CD sleeves, but they have a nice little flap. What I do is I use my Brother P-Touch, and I love this thing, totally addicted to it, and I run off a whole bunch of numbers. My stamp sets are just numbered, 1 through whatever it's going to take. So I run off a strip with a bunch of numbers, a little space between them, and what I usually do is run the machine as far as it will go before it tells me that's long enough, and then I stop it. You'll see this is like the end, and it wastes a bunch there that I wasn't able to make use of. But when you do a whole bunch at one time, you have a lot less waste. And I also do it for my dies. My dies have a little D in front of it for die. So you've got D20 or D72, D73, D74, etc. And then I also run some off for stencils, and those are ST. So you've got ST4, ST5. I don't have very many stencils yet, as you can see. So this was sleeve number 20 for a stamp. And what I did is I went into my computer and I printed off the name and manufacturer onto a piece of cardstock. Right now I'm using the 80-pound Nina Solar White. I may switch if I find a better deal someplace else for something else. Anyway, it works out pretty well. For something this size, I can actually run off, I can get 2 on a page, and then I'll just cut these out to the appropriate size. For this one, I cut it out to approximately 5 by 5 to fit in my sleeve, and you can measure your sleeve to make sure you get it just as close as you can if you want. And then I took my package and opened it up. In this case, I'm going to hang on to the little paper that came with it. It depends on the stamp set and what the documentation is and whether I think it's at all useful. Sometimes I'm saving it and sometimes I'm not. But I found that I don't like to have it right up front and center. I just think it's distracting to have all these different packages, and some of them have too many graphics and you can't really see what you're doing. So instead, I take the paper I printed, I slip it into my sleeve, and then I take the stamp set and I put it right there in front, and that's what I see when I look into my cabinet or into my basket with all of these lined up. So it's nice and easy to see. I have the name and the manufacturer. It's numbered, and I'll show you later what I do with those numbers. And then in this case, this is a fairly small little note with all the detailed information from Simon Says Stamp, including the part number. So I'm just going to stick that in the back of the little sleeve, fold it in, and now this is ready to stick in the basket and put away. Next I will show you how I do a die. Move that out of the way. This is a new small metal die, and it needs a sleeve. So I measured, and it will fit into one of my nice 5 by 5 sleeves. So I'm going to use one of those. And then I already ran off the name on one of these sheets, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this to size. And I will pause for just a moment to cut that out and come right back. So I am going to use this in my sleeve. This is a die set I haven't organized yet, so I need to find the appropriate little brother number. This is a die, so it has a D, and I'm on to die 66. So I'm just going to cut that little bit off, and I'll put my label on the sleeve. So now, because this is a die, I am going to use some magnet to hold it in. So I open up my little package here, and I have taken one of my 4x6 self-adhesive magnets, and I cut it into a 4-inch piece and a 2-inch piece. And that 4-inch piece I will save, and I will either use it for a larger die, or I will cut it in 2 and get 2 more of these. So I do make use of every little bit of magnet. Now let's see here. This die is a rather unusual shape and size, so I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. Normally I would put it on straight, but in order to get it to fit into the pocket, I'm going to have to put the die itself diagonally. So I'm going to put my magnet diagonally so I get the best coverage. So the magnet's a little smaller than the die, but because the die is solid, it's on there pretty well. You can see that it's not going anywhere. Even if I shake it vigorously, it is stuck on that magnet. And it's not necessary. I could put this in the pocket without the magnet, but I just like that it stays in place, and it's great when I have little dies. It's even great when I'm actually working on them. I will sometimes take the die out, put the sleeve back. It will even stick to the magnet through the plastic sleeve so that I can leave it on my work table and grab it when I need to cut something, but put it back when I'm done, and that way it doesn't run off. So like I said, very handy, especially when you have those ones that have lots of little pieces with them. So I'm going to take that whole thing, put it into my pocket, fold over the sleeve, and now this is ready to organize. So I will set that one aside. We are good to go there. And I'll decide later what I'm going to do about this. Then we've got stencils. And stencils need a bigger pocket, so I'm using those pockets made for 45 records, for anyone who's old enough to remember what vinyl is. So I've got a couple stencils here. I've got one that I've already gone ahead and printed out the title and cut it to fit. So I can just put it in here and it will fit in there. It's actually a little bit, the pocket's pretty big. It's bigger than it needs to be, and I will take my, dirty stencil. I need to work on that. Out of the package, put it in there, and it's good to go. And if I want, I can even put this, and if you wanted, you could certainly put this in the pocket without going to the trouble to make one of these out. I just like the uniform look of having all of mine right there. The name of the stamp is in the same place on every pocket, and it's just easier to find what I'm looking for right away. That's my stencils. And then for my really big background stamps, I use, yet again, the same technique. This is another one of those 45 sleeves. This one I've already got numbered with number 52. I've made out the little background card with the name and manufacturer. I just put it in the pocket. And in this case, I may just leave this whole thing here. Or actually, I think because you can kind of get a feel for it, I'm going to go ahead and put the stamp in front. And put this in back so that you can kind of get an example of what the text looks like. Either that, or on some of these long term, I may stamp out the example and put it on the back of the sleeve so that if you want to see what it looks like. But that's not real important for my system, and again, I'll get to that part. So this fits really nicely, no problems. Like I said, not the most expensive pockets, but I think they'll hold up well enough. And on a stamp like this, there's no small parts, so I don't really need a flap. I'm not worried about losing it. I managed to lose a lot of things, but so far I haven't managed to lose any background stamps, and knock on wood. So now I'm just going to show, and I've kind of explained this before, but I've updated it a bit. My system, what I call my index. A lot of people store their dies and stamps by company. Some store them by type. You know, all the hearts together, all the squares together, whatever. I just put them in numerical order, and then I have an index to reference. So when I am looking for the right die, say I know I want a cat. So I've got my little organized, tabbed 3-ring binder. This is just animals. I have a separate one for sentiments, and I may have to break these up more. But that's the great thing about this system. It is really easy to modify. Now this is for my stamps. And say I want a cat, I'd go to cats, and I can see all of my examples, and each one has its own card. And on the back of each card, I have written where I can find the stamp and who does it and all that. Because I pretty much put just one image on a piece of paper, and these are all 2.5 by 3.5, and these are like baseball card holders, so they work great. Because I do it that way, if I decide that I need to break up, say, say I have my bugs and I decide that the butterflies need their own section and the bumblebees need their own section, then I would just take out the ones that I want to put someplace else and move them to another section, create a new one. And it's so easy because I just pop these out, put them back in wherever I want them. Now, the new part of my system that I just recently started, these little dots here. I've got orange, and that indicates Simon Says Stamp brand products. This is their own line. I'm not finished. This is new, so I'm working on it. This is my template, just starting. I'm using orange for Simon Says Stamp, pink for Paper Smooches, green for Lawn Fun, and yellow for My Favorite Things. And then I'm also going to come up with some stickers or circles or something for these others, and then I'll probably create a second card with all the other manufacturers. The reason I'm doing this is, while this is great if I want to find a cat at a glance and I just want to see what all my cat stamps are, it's a little bit more time consuming if I'm looking for a brand. So say that Simon Says Stamp is having a challenge and they want you to use their own Simon Says brand products. Well, I look at this and I see none of these have the orange sticker, but here's 3 of them. So if I want to use a cat and I want to find one from Simon Says, I just look for the orange stickers and at a glance I can see what it is. As I'm doing more and more challenges, this is going to be invaluable. It is so quick and easy. And using this is so much easier to me than to go through actually looking at the real stamps. Because you don't really care what the stamp itself looks like. You want to know what the image looks like when it's stamped. So this is what you're going to get when you stamp it out. Actual size, actual stamp. Yes, it does take a little while, but once it's set up, if you keep it up so that every time you get a new stamp set, you set it up like this. I do it at the same time that I'll put it in its sleeve and label it and everything. That way I can put down that it's in sleeve, in this case, sleeve 6. Then it's easy for me to find. So what I do, if I decided I wanted a dog from Simon Says Stamp and I like this one, then I flip it over, I see that it's in sleeve 6, and then I just go over to where all of my stamps are in a basket, and I pull out number 6. Now, Jennifer uses something called fridge bins, which are plastic containers, but I have a thing for baskets, and I have tons and tons of baskets. So what I did is I lined these up on my shelf, and I made little tags. So this says clear stamps. And I put my stamps in these, and they work just as well as the fridge bins. They just fit my style a little bit more. So I just go here and flip through until I find number 6, and let's see, there's my little puppy dog stamp. Or, yeah. So that way, it's pretty easy to find. That was, to me, just as quick, well, a lot quicker actually than flipping through all of these. I could separate these by dogs and cats or manufacturer or whatever, but if I did it by manufacturer, then it'd be harder to find all my cats. And if I did it by cats, then it would be harder to find a particular manufacturer. By having a separate index, I can sort by anything. In fact, if I wanted, I could have a whole separate binder that's just organized by manufacturer, so all of my Paper Smooches were in one place and all my Lawn Fawns were in another. I haven't felt that need yet, but it's always a possibility. And with my system, it'd be fairly easy. I'd just double stamp it. So I'd still keep what I have now, but I'd create a second reference by manufacturer. Oh, I almost forgot a couple things. First off, I showed you my stamp binder. I am also doing the same thing with dies. It's a little bit harder. I can't use the baseball card sleeves because most of the dies are too big for that. These are my punches. But I am creating sections like shapes, and I'm trying to keep similar shapes together, like hearts and stars together, and borders, and similar. And all of these, I do the same thing. I've got labeled the sleeve that you'll find it in and the name of manufacturer, all the information I might need. One other thing I'll mention, if I need to know who made all the supplies, if, say, I'm blogging about a card I made, it's really handy to be able to use these binders because I can take the binders with me and put them by my computer and leaf through to find all the products without having to go look at each one of the products and find out who made them and all that fun information. So it's really handy to have, but still trying to figure out the best way to organize everything for the dies, but so far it's working pretty well. So that's my die binder. And then I thought I'd also show you, I know we were talking about the fact that some people organize the stamps and dies by category. Mine are just a numerical order because I use my index binders to find what I'm looking for. But there are some times when it might be helpful to have dividers. And instead of using plastic folders and cutting them up, I find this works just as well and it fits my color scheme. All I've done is cut out pieces of colored cardstock, rounded the edges, and then laminated them, and then rounded those edges. And I'll use my label maker to put a label on it, or I could also run these through, of course, and put the name for whatever I wanted to label on the label itself before I laminated it. So these work great. I'm just still trying to figure out where I actually really need them and how that'll come into play. But I thought I'd mention it. Anyway, I think that's it now. I'm going to turn the camera around and show you the actual storage area. Okay, I've changed direction here, and now you're looking at my largest cabinet. This is actually almost a wall-sized unit here. I do have more storage, but as you can see, I like my baskets. I even have more larger baskets down there. Most of my stamps and dies are in those baskets, so you can kind of see, let's see, that's the basket I was just showing you. Whoops, needs retied. The tags were just hand cut on paper. I put an eyelet in there for the hole. Stamped them with I have a set of letter stamps and tied it with a little bit of ribbon and it's good to go. I've got another one for clear stamps. They're all kind of red, yellow, and black because, you know, the whole Mickey Mouse thing. So anyway, but this is stamps 1 through 29 and that's 30 through whatever I'm up to right now. There's still plenty of room in these baskets, so I'll move some of those over. Right now I just tried to split them kind of half and half, but there's plenty of room to put more in, so I'm good to go there for a while. This is thin dies, and these are all those 5x5 sleeves, so they work pretty well, you'll see, for most of them. And then I also have a basket for some of the ones that are larger, like this one. I've set that one up a little bit different with the picture on front, but you'll see it's got all of the dies on a big piece of magnet on the back, and that is just one of those 4x6s. So even the big sets, the 4x6 magnet was big enough, and it's very strong. It's not shaking or moving anywhere. So, and then just those are all labeled with that D. And because I have so few stencils, I haven't set up its own basket yet, but I will. Those will have their own basket. I am also thinking about doing the same thing for my embossing folders. I just have to experiment a little bit to see if one of these sleeves is the appropriate size and if I like how they work. So that's a future experiment. Okay, so that was my organizational system so far, subject to change because, of course, that's what we do. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. The products that I used will be listed in the display below, or you can see them all on my blog with more information and still photos. And I think that's about it. I hope this was helpful or entertaining or interesting or something positive. And if you have any suggestions or ideas, or if you'd like to show me your system, I would love to see it. I love watching these things too. So have a great day, and thank you so much for watching.